You could give her the world, and she would still walk away. That's the brutal truth most men refuse to face. It doesn't matter how many gifts you buy, how many problems you solve, or how many sleepless nights you spend proving your devotion, because if you're not giving her what truly ignites her soul, you're invisible in her eyes. And here's the part. No one tells you women don't fall in love with effort. They fall in love with impact. This is why so many good men get betrayed, discarded, or quietly replaced, while the men who stand rooted in self-worth, inner peace, and quiet confidence command loyalty and respect without even asking for it. Today, I'm going to show you the 10 brutal Stoic truths about what women actually want, why effort alone will never be enough, and how to reclaim your power by building psychological boundaries, emotional intelligence, and a high-performance mindset. If you're tired of being overlooked, if you're ready to stop chasing and start becoming, then listen carefully, because once you understand this, you'll never beg, overgive, or explain yourself again. You've been told since childhood that effort is everything. Study harder, and you'll get better grades. Work longer hours, and you'll earn more money. Push yourself in the gym, and your body transforms. In almost every arena of life, effort equals reward. But when it comes to women, that formula collapses, because effort does not equal desire. This is the first brutal truth men must face. The trap of overgiving. Most men enter relationships with a dangerous assumption: if I give enough, she will finally love me. So they shower her with gifts, respond instantly to every text, bend their schedule around her, and proudly wear the title of the nice guy. On paper, it looks like devotion, but in her eyes, it often looks like desperation. Why? Because desire is not logical. It is emotional. She doesn't think to herself, wow, he drove me to work, bought me dinner, and texted me 3 times this morning. I guess I should fall in love with him now. That's not how attraction works. When you overgive, especially in the early stages, what she feels is not gratitude but suspicion. Why is he trying so hard? What does he want from me? Doesn't he have anything else going on in his life? Your effort, instead of pulling her closer, pushes her away. The Stoic perspective, Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. When you equate effort with love, you're estimating your worth through someone else's reaction. You're expecting that every ounce of energy you pour into her will return as affection. And when it doesn't, you collapse." A Stoic man never ties his peace to outcomes he cannot control. He gives from strength, not from need. He leads with presence, not with performance. The uncomfortable truth: if she doesn't desire you for who you are, no amount of effort will manufacture that desire. Presence over performance. What truly attracts her is not the checklist of things you do, but the energy you bring. A man who is rooted in self-worth doesn't rush to prove himself. A man with psychological boundaries doesn't overextend to buy approval. A man with emotional intelligence understands that sometimes silence speaks louder than constant reassurance. This is why the man who gives less but radiates calm confidence often outshines the man who gives everything but radiates neediness. She doesn't crave a servant. She craves a presence. She wants to feel a gravitational pull toward you that she can't quite explain. And that pull is born not from effort, but from composure, unpredictability, and inner strength. The nice guy case study picture: two men. Man A is eager, available, and endlessly accommodating. He never says no. He replies instantly, rearranges his life around her, and lives to make her comfortable. Man B is interested, but not desperate. He shows up when he says he will laugh. He's kind, but not overbearing. He has his own mission, his own rhythm, and his own inner world that doesn't revolve around her approval. Who does she desire? Almost always, it's man B. Why? Because he is unpredictable enough to spark curiosity, confident enough to hold his ground, and grounded enough to be immune to her tests. He is not a commodity. He is a presence. The Stoic lesson: effort without impact is wasted motion. And the impact a woman feels is not measured in money spent, hours sacrificed, or words repeated. It is measured in the emotional charge you bring into her life. Stoicism teaches us that true power is mastery of self, not mastery of others. So ask yourself, are you giving because you are full, or because you are empty? Are you acting from principle, or from fear of losing her? Are you offering presence, or are you performing for validation? A Stoic man does not perform. He embodies. He doesn't chase, he attracts. He doesn't overgive. He allows his boundaries to do the speaking. Psychological boundaries in action. Here's the practical application. Don't text her back within seconds every single time. Live your life. Let your rhythm be felt. Don't cancel your plans just to be available. Guard your mission first. Don't measure your worth in her gratitude. Stand firm in your own value. By doing this, you shift from being the man who tries to being the man who is. And that shift is magnetic. The inner transformation. The harsh reality is this: if effort were enough, every nice guy would already be married. But it's not about effort. It's about essence. It's about the high-performance mindset that says, I don't hand over my peace for anyone's approval. When you stop overgiving, you stop being drained. When you stop performing, you start leading. When you stop begging for desire, you begin commanding respect. And that's where attraction truly begins. Key takeaway: effort alone doesn't make her stay. Self-mastery does. Because a man who doesn't need to prove himself is the man she cannot forget. You can sit beside her every single day. You can call, text, and show up whenever she asks. You can be the man who never leaves her side. But here's the bitter truth. Being present is not the same as making an impact. A man can give a woman all of his time, yet leave her emotionally empty. Another man can appear only in fragments, yet leave her thoughts racing, her heart alive, and her soul restless with curiosity. Presence is physical, impact is emotional, and women don't fall for presence, they fall for impact. The illusion of more is better. Many men are conditioned to believe that the more time, energy, and attention they give, the more love they will receive in return. It feels logical. If she sees how devoted I am, she'll appreciate me more. But that's not how attraction works. Attraction is not built on the volume of your presence, but on the depth of your effect. She doesn't remember every dinner you paid for. She doesn't replay the 1,000 good morning texts. What she remembers is how you made her feel in moments that pierced through the noise of her life. It's not the constant attention, it's the emotional charge. Why women seek emotional power. Here's a truth. Most men never admit women crave emotional power. Not constant presence. They don't fall in love with the man who gives them everything. They fall in love with the man who makes them feel something they can't explain. That feeling might be curiosity, tension, mystery, or even challenge, but it's never predictability. If she can predict your every move, if she knows you'll always be there, regardless of how she treats you, she stops feeling. Because safety without polarity leads to boredom. She doesn't want to control you. She wants to feel moved by you. The Stoic dimension Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Translated into relationships, it's not about what you give her, but the impact your presence has on her spirit. A Stoic man doesn't confuse providing with pleasing. He doesn't mistake generosity for magnetism. He understands that true attraction is not about flooding her with attention, but about maintaining his own center so strongly that his very energy shifts the room when he enters. That's the difference between being there and being unforgettable, the predictability trap. Let's be honest. When a man is always available, always agreeable, always present, he becomes predictable. Predictability may feel stable, but in the emotional realm, it often feels flat. The truth is, women don't want a fan, they want a force. Someone who can spark emotional energy. Someone who isn't afraid to stir her soul. Someone who can challenge her in ways that make her grow. If all you offer is safety, she'll appreciate you, but she won't desire you. The Stoic edge, depth over frequency. This is where Stoicism gives men the ultimate advantage. The Stoic man doesn't rush to fill silence with words. He knows silence itself can create tension. He doesn't rush to please every demand. He knows restraint builds respect. He doesn't offer himself cheaply, constantly available. He knows value is proven in scarcity. What women crave is not your constant nearness, but your emotional gravity, the unshakable energy that makes them lean in, wonder what you're thinking, and feel alive in your presence. It's not the frequency of your presence, but the depth of your being. Building emotional impact. So how do you create impact instead of just presence? Master emotional intelligence. Listen deeply, but don't collapse into every mood. Read her emotions, but don't let them control yours. Hold psychological boundaries. Don't hand her full control of your attention. Let her feel your presence without owning it. Lead with inner peace. Be calm when she's chaotic. Be steady when she's emotional. Your tranquility is the storm she respects. Stay unpredictable, not by playing games, but by living a full life. Have passions, goals, and a rhythm she can feel, but not fully predict. When you embody these principles, you stop being her constant background noise and become her emotional highlight reel. A Stoic example. Marcus Aurelius never sought to please the crowd. He lived by principle. not by applause. And in doing so, he left an impact that has lasted centuries. That's the lesson: impact outlives presence. A woman might forget how many times you texted her, but she will never forget how you made her feel in the rare moments when your energy shook her soul. Key takeaway: stop confusing availability with attraction. Stop thinking your devotion guarantees her desire. Remember this: she doesn't crave your constant presence. She craves the emotional impact of your presence. Be the man who leaves her stirred, not just the man who stays. Be the man she replays in her mind, not the man she takes for granted in her routine. Because in the end, presence is common, but impact is unforgettable. We've all heard the advice: just be nice. Be kind. Be there for her, and she'll choose you. It sounds noble. It sounds logical. But in the reality of human psychology, it's a trap that has destroyed countless men's self-worth. Because here's the harsh truth: nice guys don't get chosen, they get used. The emotional spare tire. The nice guy is not her dream. He's her backup plan. He's the shoulder she cries on when the man she actually desires breaks her heart. He's the one who listens for hours, gives advice, sends supportive texts only to be thanked with, "You're such a good friend," in her eyes. The nice guy is not the man she craves. He's the man she keeps in reserve. The emotional spare tire. Useful when life gets rough, but never the reason she wants to take the journey. Think about it. She says, "You're always there for me." She says, "You're so sweet." But notice how she says it while texting the man who stirs her emotions, the man who challenges her, the man who leaves her thinking about him at night. This is the brutal paradox: safety and attraction rarely live in the same house. Why nice isn't enough. Being nice is not a strategy. It's the bare minimum of human decency. Yes, women appreciate kindness. Yes, they want respect. But when niceness becomes your identity, it often hides fear. Fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of standing in your own boundaries. And here's the problem: fear is never attractive. When you avoid tension at all costs, when you bend over backward to keep her comfortable, you don't inspire desire, you inspire control. And when she feels she can control you, she loses respect. Control kills mystery. Mystery fuels attraction. The Stoic insight, Stoicism, teaches that true strength is not in pleasing others, but in mastering yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The nice guy argues with himself every day. He asks, "If I give more, will she finally see me?" He sacrifices his time, his boundaries, his identity, hoping for love in return. But the Stoic man, he doesn't negotiate his value. He lives by principle, not by approval. He doesn't beg to be chosen. He becomes the kind of man who is impossible to ignore. Why nice guys fade into the background? Imagine a man who never challenges her, never says no, never pushes back. At first, she may enjoy the attention. It feels flattering, but slowly, the energy shifts. Why? Because she begins to feel like the leader, and no woman respects a man she can lead emotionally. The nice guy becomes predictable. Predictability becomes boring. Boredom becomes distance. And soon, she's gone, not because you weren't kind enough, but because you lacked the edge that commands respect. Psychological boundaries. The antidote. Here's the shift: women don't crave men who give everything. They crave men who set boundaries, a man who can say, "This doesn't work for me," without fear. A man who can walk away when respect is missing. A man who knows his time, energy, and presence are valuable and doesn't hand them over cheaply. This doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you magnetic, because boundaries create polarity, and polarity creates desire. From nice to stoic. Let's reframe. The nice guy is reactive. He changes himself to keep her happy. The stoic man is proactive. He stands firm, allowing the world, including her, to respond to his presence. The nice guy orbits her like a satellite, constantly chasing her approval. The stoic man is a star in his own universe, radiating strength, self-worth, and inner peace. Which one commands her respect? Which one ignites her attraction? Always the man who refuses to be a doormat, the real choice. So ask yourself, are you trying to be chosen? Or are you choosing yourself? Because when you give up your standards to be nice, you're not being kind, you're being invisible. And when you choose invisibility, don't be surprised when she forgets you. Remember, women respect men who respect themselves. And respect is the foundation of both love and desire. Key takeaway: niceness without strength is weakness. Kindness without boundaries is manipulation, because you're giving in hopes of receiving. A stoic man doesn't beg to be her first choice. He builds himself until he becomes the only choice worth considering. So stop trying to win her over by being endlessly available. Stop trading your time and energy for scraps of attention. Instead, embody self-mastery, emotional intelligence, and psychological boundaries. Because in the end, nice guys are remembered for their availability. Stoic men are remembered for their impact. Every man loves to be appreciated. A compliment feels good. Hearing "you mean so much to me" can stroke the ego in ways nothing else does. But here's the brutal reality: the moment your worth depends on her validation, you lose her respect. The trap of chasing approval. When a man constantly seeks validation, he's not receiving love, he's begging for it. He fishes for compliments. "Do you really like me?" he anxiously asks. "Are you mad at me?" He over-explains his actions so she won't misunderstand. It looks like care, but beneath it is fear. Fear of losing her. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of not being enough. And women can sense that fear instantly. What she sees is not strength but insecurity. And insecurity kills attraction faster than silence ever could. The Stoic perspective Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because the Stoics understood that external opinions, praise or criticism are unstable foundations. When your identity is tied to validation, you're no longer free. You're enslaved to the mood of others. One compliment lifts you. One criticism destroys you. And in a relationship, when your sense of worth is tied to her approval, she becomes the master of your self-image. You're no longer a man, you're a performer auditioning for her applause. A Stoic man refuses this. He knows his value comes from within his discipline, his principles, his inner peace. The collapse of polarity attraction thrives on polarity masculine stability meeting feminine energy. But when you're the one constantly begging for reassurance, polarity collapses. She no longer looks up to you. She looks down at you. She no longer respects your frame. She manages it. She no longer feels safe in your presence. She feels burdened by it. Because here's the paradox. The more you beg to be seen, the more invisible you become. Emotional intelligence, holding your frame. True strength is not about avoiding emotion. It's about not outsourcing your worth to anyone else. When she go quiet, you don't panic. You hold your frame. When she pulls away, you don't chase. You let space do its work. When she tests you, you don't over-explain. You respond calmly, with clarity. This is emotional intelligence in action, the ability to notice your need for validation and refuse to act from it. Instead of asking, "What will make her approve of me?" ask, "What would the man I want to become do in this moment?" That shift from reaction to principle is what separates the weak from the unforgettable, the weight of constant need. Consider this. No woman wants to be in charge of your confidence when you rely on her words to feel like a man. You give her an exhausting responsibility. She must constantly reassure, constantly soothe, constantly lift you up. At first, she may do it out of kindness, but over time, she resents it. Why? Because she doesn't want to be your emotional mother. She wants to feel the strength of a man who stands unshaken, whether praised or criticized. Stoicism calls this ataraxia, inner tranquility, the unshakable calm that remains even when storms rage outside. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what makes her lean in. Practical application. How do you break free from the validation trap? 1. Notice the urge, that anxiety when she hasn't replied, that itch to explain yourself, that fear of silence. 2. Pause. Don't act. Let the discomfort burn through you. Breathe into it. 3. Respond from principle. Ask yourself, what action aligns with my values, not my fear? 4. Detach from outcome, whether she approves or not. Your peace remains untouched. Every time you practice this, you train your mind to shift from needy to composed, from reactive to grounded. Stoic example. Marcus Aurelius never begged for validation. He wrote, "Do not waste time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Notice the wisdom here. Don't ask to be seen as good. Simply live as good. Don't beg for recognition. Embody the standard, because when you live by principle, respect follows naturally. Key takeaway: validation is not wrong, but dependence on it is poison. The man who constantly seeks approval becomes forgettable. The man who stands firm without it becomes unforgettable. So stop begging to be seen. Stop explaining yourself to ease her moods. Stop outsourcing your self-worth to her attention. Instead, cultivate self-mastery, inner peace, and quiet confidence, because in her eyes, nothing is more attractive than a man who doesn't need her validation yet, still chooses to share his strength with her. You've been told your whole life that consistency is the secret to success, and in most areas, it's true. Consistency builds muscle. Consistency grows wealth. Consistency sharpens skills. But in relationships, especially when it comes to attraction, consistency without mystery becomes monotony, the trap of overconsistency. A lot of men think, if I keep showing her I care every single day, eventually she'll see my value. So they send the good morning text. They check in constantly. They repeat the same compliments. They never miss a beat. It feels safe. It feels noble. But to her, it feels flat. Why? Because when she can predict your every move, she stops feeling anything at all. Attraction is not born in routine. It's born in tension, the power of mystery. Mystery isn't about manipulation. It's not about ghosting her or playing cruel games. Mystery is about depth. It's about being a man she cannot fully figure out. The man who has passions she hasn't yet discovered. The man who has moments of silence that make her wonder what he's thinking. The man who doesn't overshare every detail, but reveals himself slowly, with intention. That's what makes her lean in. That's what makes her replay conversations in her mind. That's what keeps her coming back for more. Because mystery keeps her curious. And curiosity is the spark that keeps attraction alive. The Stoic principle of restraint, Stoicism, teaches us the discipline of restraint. A Stoic man knows he doesn't need to put every thought, every feeling, every opinion on display. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." Think about that in relationships. When you overshare, overcommit, or overexplain, you're desperately trying to control her perception of you. But in doing so, you actually lose control. Restraint, on the other hand, creates space. And in that space, mystery is born. Why mystery outweighs consistency? Here's the truth. Women don't fantasize about men who are fully revealed. They fantasize about men who leave questions unanswered. When he doesn't reply instantly, she wonders what he's doing. When he doesn't narrate every detail, she imagines the rest. When he shows up with presence but not predictability, she feels emotional tension. This is not manipulation, it's magnetism. Because desire doesn't feed on knowing everything. Desire feeds on the unknown. Emotional intelligence in practice. A man with emotional intelligence understands that mystery doesn't mean distance, it means depth. He is consistent in his values, but unpredictable in his expression. He is steady in his mission, but flexible in his presence. He is transparent in his principles, but not a billboard of his every thought. This balance, clarity plus restraint, is what creates polarity. Living as a Stoic force. The Stoic man doesn't explain himself unless it's necessary. He doesn't feel the need to prove his worth in every interaction. He knows his silence can speak louder than words, and his absence can sometimes create more gravity than his constant presence. That's what separates him from the nice guy who shows all his cards up front. Mystery is not hiding. Mystery is holding back just enough to keep his power intact, holding his presence like a force she must earn, not a commodity freely available at all times. Practical shifts. If you want to create mystery without games, stop narrating your life. She doesn't need constant updates. Pause before responding. A calm delay builds more gravity than instant replies. Guard your passions. Reveal them slowly, with intention. Let silence breathe. Don't fear it. Use it. By doing this, you stop being predictable and start being magnetic. Stoic example. Marcus Aurelius didn't waste time trying to prove himself to every Roman senator or soldier. His strength wasn't in explaining it, was in being. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's mystery. That's restraint. That's the force of a man who doesn't need to announce his power because it's felt in his presence. Key takeaway: consistency is admirable, but consistency without mystery is forgettable. So yes, be consistent in your principles. Be consistent in your mission. Be consistent in your integrity. But when it comes to attraction, let mystery be your edge, because mystery sparks curiosity. Curiosity fuels emotion, and emotion creates desire in the end. It's not about being always there. It's about being unforgettable when you are. Many men fall into the worship trap. They believe that if they treat her like a flawless goddess, praise her endlessly, and never disagree, she'll stay forever. It feels romantic. It feels noble. But in truth, worship kills attraction. Because here's the paradox. She doesn't want a fan. She wants a force. The worship illusion worship might feel safe. It avoids conflict. It makes you look endlessly devoted. But in reality, it makes you predictable, passive, and easy to dominate. And no woman truly respects a man she can dominate. When you put her on a pedestal, you strip yourself of power. You become the follower in a relationship that requires leadership. And instead of craving your presence, she begins to feel the energy shift. She is the leader, and you are the admirer. Respect. Fadis. Désir evaporat. The craving for challenge. What most men don't realize is this: women don't crave perfection. They crave polarity. They want to feel alive, stirred, awakened. And that only happens when a man challenges them, not by arguing to win, not by nagging or controlling, but by standing firm in his boundaries, his vision, and his principles. Challenge is energetic. It's the strength to say, "I hear you, but I don't agree." It's the courage to hold your frame when she tests you. It's the calmness to let her throw her storms while you remain unmoved. That kind of presence awakens something deeper than attention. It awakens respect. Why worship weakens? When you worship, you erase yourself. You silence your opinions. You hide your true feelings. You mold yourself around her preferences. At first, she may enjoy it. It feels flattering to be adored without condition. But over time, she sees the truth. You are not leading. You are submitting. And submission is not attraction, it's exhaustion. She cannot admire the man who loses himself in her shadow. The Stoic contrast. Stoicism teaches us to view others clearly, not through the lens of idealization, but through truth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." Notice, he doesn't say to idolize others. He says to live fully. to love wisely, to see clearly. The Stoic man doesn't worship anyone, not even the woman he loves. He honors her, he respects her, he admires her, but he never loses himself in her image, because worship is blindness, and blindness leads to weakness. Challenge creates growth. Here's what real challenge looks like. Saying no when it matters. Not out of ego, but out of principle. Calling her higher. Not to control her, but to awaken her best self. Holding steady when she tests. Proving your calm is unshakable. Refusing to flatter for attention. Choosing instead to speak the truth. Challenge creates respect. Respect fuels attraction. Attraction deepens into love. This is the natural progression, and it begins the moment you stop being her fan and start being her equal. The energy shift. Think back to times when you played it safe. You agreed with everything she said, silenced your real thoughts, and tried to keep the peace at all costs. What happened? Most likely, her interest faded, not because you weren't kind, but because you weren't strong. Kindness without strength becomes weakness. Attention without boundaries becomes worship. But the moment you stop molding yourself around her and start standing in your own truth, the energy shifts. She listens differently. She engages differently. She respects differently. Because now, she feels the presence of a man, not a follower. Practical application. How do you shift from worship to challenge? 1. Stop overpraising. Compliments mean nothing if they're constant. Let you The winds scream. Most men, in that moment, panic. They become another wave in her emotional ocean. But the Stoic man, he becomes the anchor. Unmoved, unshaken, present. And here's the secret. Women are not drawn to men who mirror their chaos. They are drawn to men who steady it. When you refuse to flinch, when you refuse to beg, when you refuse to react, you become the mountain to her storm. That's when she feels the most. Emotional intelligence in action. This doesn't mean ignoring her or stonewalling. It means choosing response over reaction. If she's upset, you listen, but you don't apologize for existing. If she's distant, you stay centered. You don't spiral into panic texting. If she tests you, you smile calmly. You don't collapse under pressure. This is the discipline of emotional intelligence, observing the trigger without handing over your power to it. Every pause is a reminder, I am in control of myself. I choose my response. Practical shifts. 1. Breathe before speaking. One deep breath can transform a reaction into a deliberate response. 2. Hold silence. Don't rush to fill gaps. Silence is often more powerful than words. 3. Detach from her moods. Her emotions are hers to process. Don't take them as orders to perform. 4. Stand calm under pressure. When tested, remember the test isn't about the words. It's about whether you remain unshaken. Stoic example, Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Most men fail this lesson. They collapse under her moods. They trade their composure for temporary comfort. But the Stoic man treats every test as training, every silence as practice, every emotional storm as a chance to sharpen his discipline. Key takeaway. The man who reacts less is the man she feels more. Because restraint builds mystery, calm builds respect, stillness builds desire. So stop chasing every silence. Stop panicking at every mood. Stop giving her the power to define your state. Instead, embody the Stoic presence, grounded in self-worth, guarded by psychological boundaries, directed by inner peace. Because in the end, the less you react, the more she feels, not because you played games, but because you mastered yourself. Let's be brutally honest. When you give yourself away too easily, you teach her one thing: your value is cheap. It doesn't matter how much you love, how much you give, or how much you sacrifice. If she doesn't have to earn it, she won't respect it. Because here's the truth: people don't treasure what comes without effort. The trap of overgiving. So many men believe the opposite. They think, if I show her I'm loyal, generous, and available, she'll never leave. So they pour out gifts, time, affection, and endless patience. But what usually happens? She starts pulling away. She stops appreciating. She begins taking everything for granted. And he sits there confused, thinking, how could she leave after everything I did? The answer is simple: because he gave before she earned. And what is handed freely, without effort, becomes invisible. Value must be met, not given. Think about it. A man who gives his attention to everyone has no gravity. A man who gives his time to everyone has no boundaries. A man who gives his love without standards becomes replaceable. But the man who requires effort in respect, consistency, loyalty, and energy commands value. Because when she invests in you, when she earns your presence, she treasures it. And if she doesn't, she walks away, and that's a blessing. Because she was never meant to stand beside you in the first place. The Stoic lens, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." The Stoic man lives by this principle, truth over illusion. And the truth is, if she hasn't earned you, she will not value you. If you hand over your heart, hoping for gratitude, you are trading truth for comfort. But the man who sets standards, he's not playing games. He's living in alignment with the truth that love without respect is not love at all. Why standards create desire? It may sound counterintuitive, but here's the paradox. The harder something is to earn, the more it is valued. This is why luxury items hold weight, because not everyone can access them. This is why the Stoic man is magnetic, because not every woman qualifies for his presence. He doesn't say yes to everyone. He doesn't bend to every request. He doesn't confuse availability with love. Instead, he carries himself as a standard. And when she meets that standard, she respects him deeply because she worked for it. Psychological boundaries in practice. Here's how you embody this truth. 1. Guard your time. Don't give it to someone who doesn't respect it. 2. Demand reciprocity. Energy should be matched. If you're always giving and she's always taking, walk away. 3. Don't prove yourself. Let her actions prove her worthiness of your presence. 4. Detach from outcome. If she leaves because she refuses to invest, that's clarity, not loss. This is how a Stoic man protects his self-worth without arrogance. From begging to becoming. When you're trying to be chosen, you're begging. When you build yourself into a standard, you're becoming. And women don't respect beggars, they respect builders. Stop saying, "I hope she sees my value." Start asking, "Has she shown she values my presence?" That shift changes everything. Because when you stop giving away your value and start requiring it to be earned, you become the man she cannot ignore. Stoic example. Epictetus taught, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best of yourself?" The best of yourself is not found in overgiving, but in guarding your essence. It's not found in being chosen, but in being respected. If she doesn't rise to meet your standard, the Stoic path is clear. You don't lower yourself. You move forward. Key takeaway. If she doesn't earn you, she won't value you. Because value is never in what you hand over, it's in what you require. So stop trading self-worth for temporary approval. Stop begging to be seen. Stop confusing generosity with magnetism. Instead, live with boundaries. Live with inner peace. Live with a high-performance mindset, because in the end, a Stoic man is not chosen, he is respected. And respect is the foundation of lasting desire. Most men fear detachment. They hear the word and think it means being cold, unfeeling, or heartless. But in reality, emotional detachment is not about shutting down, it's about standing unshaken. It's the power to feel deeply, yet not be ruled by what you feel. It's the ability to love without being enslaved. to care without being controlled, to walk away without collapsing, and in the world of attraction, respect, and self-mastery. Emotional detachment is your ultimate superpower, the prison of attachment. When your emotional state rises and falls with her moods, her replies, her approval, you are not in love. You are in prison. One silence makes you panic. One delay in text makes you spiral. One moment of distance makes you feel worthless. This isn't love, it's dependency. And dependency kills attraction, because when she senses that her slightest withdrawal can break you, she no longer respects you. You become predictable, fragile, and easy to manipulate. The Stoic foundation of detachment. The Stoics taught that freedom begins where attachment ends. Epictetus wrote, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them, applied to relationships." This means it is not her actions that enslave you, it is your dependence on them. The Stoic man practices detachment not to avoid love, but to protect his peace. He feels, but he does not cling. He gives, but he does not beg. He stays, but he can also walk away. This calm, grounded independence is what makes him magnetic. Why detachment creates desire paradoxically? The less emotionally dependent you are, the more powerful your presence becomes. Why? Because she cannot move you like every other man. She cannot control you with withdrawal. She cannot bait you with silence. Instead, she feels your strength. She feels the calm of a man who doesn't flinch. And that calm becomes emotional gravity. It pulls her in deeper. A man who can walk away is far more desirable than the man who clings. Because walking away signals one thing: you value your peace more than her approval. The anchor in the storm. Picture this: she throws her emotional storms at you: anger, silence, mood swings. Most men react instantly. They apologize, explain, beg. They collapse under the weight of the moment. But the Stoic man, he remains still, like a mountain in the storm. He listens, but doesn't panic. He acknowledges, but doesn't over-explain. He cares, but doesn't crumble. And here's the paradox: that stillness makes her feel more than all the words you could ever say. Because your calm reminds her she is with a man, not a boy chasing approval. Practical Stoic detachment. How do you build this superpower? 1. Notice the trigger. That rush of anxiety when she pulls away. 2. Pause instead of chasing. Give space instead of collapsing into reaction. 3. Ask yourself, what would the man I aspire to be do in this moment? 4. Detach from outcome. If she stays, good. If she leaves, you remain whole. This is how you train your mind to choose principle over panic, inner peace over impulse. Emotional detachment versus emotional avoidance. Let's be clear. Detachment is not numbness. Avoidance runs away from feelings. Detachment feels them fully, then chooses action from strength. The detached man loves deeply, but never loses himself. He carries fiercely, but never trades his dignity. He connects fully, but never chains his self-worth to another's moods. That's what makes detachment a superpower, not a wall, but a throne. A Stoic example. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, loss, and death constantly, yet in his meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's emotional detachment in its purest form, to stand sovereign over your inner world, no matter what chaos erupts outside. Key takeaway: detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. It is not indifference. It is discipline. It is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. Because the man who doesn't need her approval commands her respect. The man who can walk away is the man she cannot forget. And the man who protects his peace above all else is the one who truly becomes unstoppable. Su embrace emocional, detachment, not to push love away, but to hold your self-worth unshaken. Because in the end, a Stoic man does not beg to be chosen. He chooses himself, and that choice is the source of his unbreakable power. You've just walked through the brutal truths that most men never face. And maybe some of it stung. Maybe some of it forced you to see yourself in a way that's uncomfortable. But that's exactly the point. Growth is never found in comfort. It's found in clarity, in discipline, in the courage to let go of illusions. Because the reality is simple. She doesn't want your overgiving. She wants your presence. She doesn't want your worship. She wants your strength. She doesn't want your neediness. She wants your self-mastery. And when you embrace these truths, you stop living as a man who begs to be chosen, and you start living as a man who cannot be ignored. This is the Stoic way: to stand rooted in self-worth, to guard your psychological boundaries, to embody emotional intelligence, to radiate inner peace, to move with a high-performance mindset. That's the man who commands respect. That's the man who creates impact. That's the man who becomes unforgettable. So the question is no longer, what does she want? The question is, what kind of man will I choose to become? Because once you answer that, everything else falls into place. If this message resonated with you, don't just nod, act. Subscribe to Think Stoic 101 for more content that sharpens your mind and strengthens your spirit. Drop a comment. I choose self-mastery to declare your commitment. And share this with a brother who needs to hear the truth. No one else will tell him. The world doesn't need more men begging for validation. It needs more men living with unshakable clarity, innate discipline, and quiet confidence. And that man, that force, can be you. Until next time, stay calm, stay grounded, and never hand your power to anyone.